if a content creator has somebody sit down in front of them and says something like, when I was 7 years old, I was raped, and now I'm scared to put myself out there, a content creator is going to shake in their boots. They're going to crap themselves because they won't know how to be able to sit in that emotionally with somebody and support them to be able to create and facilitate a breakthrough in their life. So I teach breakthrough coaching. You know, if you've ever seen Tony Robbins that speaks on stages at events, he does it live, he walks out in the audience. That's the coaching I do. It's on the spot in front of hundreds or thousands of people, and you're in the freaking trenches, man. Like, that's a real coach.
I'm Luke, and you're listening to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. It's another opportunity for us to grow, another opportunity for you to transform your life and surround yourself with some really, really positive, powerful, good energy. So today I'm going to be interviewing an extraordinary individual. His name is Joel Brown. He's the founder of Addicted to Success, someone who I've actually been following and known of since around 2018-19 when I actually first started my journey as well. So, you know, before I say anything else, Joel, welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast, man.
Luke, thanks for having me, man. Thanks a million. I appreciate you. I love the content you put out, and let's keep creating some more impact in this world.
Yeah, bro, absolutely, man. So I actually remember, I think I saw your website, man, when I was first. It's crazy because this is the whole thing about like growth, right? I saw you back in 2019, probably early 2019, I think it was, when I was first basically just getting into speaking and, you know, kind of like opening up because I was like so quiet and like insecure and low on my confidence for so many years. And I remember seeing you. So like, tell us about like, how long have you been doing and been in this coaching space, motivational space, speaking, personal development? Because I remember seeing Addicted to Success back in 2019. And so you were already like doing big things back then.
Yeah, I kicked off addictedtosuccess.com. It was around 2009, 2010. So it was like 14
so you've been
years
around,
ago.
bro.
Bro, I was this little 22-year-old young buck. I was in a sales job in Perth, Western Australia, selling telecommunication packages to small and medium-sized business and corporate, kind of making my way up the ladder. And I wasn't necessarily feeling like I didn't like my job because I was good at it and I was rewarded good commission for it. And I got to wear the suit and I got the fancy watch and the polished shoes and standing in the ivory tower looking over Perth City and feeling like, you know, that point where Mufasa says, you know, like, all of this can be yours. You know, my manager who took me under his wing and mentored me, I felt like I sort of cracked it. But as I was reading these personal development books, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Jack Canfield, and watching them speak on stages, on videos online, I felt like I was just really scratching the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's so much more. So I created a website called addictedtosuccess.com. Because there wasn't anything else out there like it at the time. Like, there were websites on psychology and there were websites where they would talk about human behavior, but it was like reading a medical paper. It was really hard to understand. So I sort of positioned myself as a guy that goes and reads really complex things and then synthesizes it and breaks it down into like a teachable step-by-step manner. And it blew up, man. It did really well. It was just this like formula for hope that people really needed. It gave personal development to people in different parts of the world. Like, I had people from like Africa and India that were reading it. We had like a translation option and like plug-in that we'd have on the site so people could read it in different languages. And it took off, man, and maximized our traffic. We had people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson who shared one of our posts that we put up with him. And like, I remember, man, he shared it on Twitter and it was like the 26 Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson inspirational quotes. And he like reposted it and he said, quote number 27, "Don't pee in the wind," you know, just like joking. And it blew that article up. We ended up getting maybe like 1.2 million people come across that month, and it crashed out our servers. You know, we had to upgrade all our servers and all that. So I was this young buck learning about personal development and at the same time just sharing what I was learning. I didn't call myself a coach at the time. I didn't feel like I had the right to just yet, especially to say a life coach when I was, 22. I think the way that the industry in the space works, man, is if you can get people results, that's really what they want. And so I started to learn and apply, and then people would ask me for advice and I would give them advice. And then I started learning how to go through the deeper transformational processes in coaching. And I fell in love with the art and craft of coaching. I love learning the tools, the frameworks, the exercises, and actually integrating and applying it. And that took off as well, So I had my website taken off and getting notoriety. We got a huge podcast, getting asked to speak at events. And then at the same time, I'm also learning all the coaching tools and running retreats and events there. And it's just, scaled from there. So that's where I'm at, man. Coach and
that's amazing,
and
man.
Online entrepreneur.
Yeah, cool, man. So first, basically, it started off as being like a blog kind of thing, where you were just like an online newspaper. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, online blog. I didn't want to be the blogging guy. I didn't want to be called the blogger and sort of bucket myself in that category, because I did love coaching, and so I was careful of that. And what I really wanted was I wanted to share the things that I felt were really transformational with the world so they could learn. And it was essentially what I wanted. When you sit around, you sort of think to yourself, man, how come nobody's created this? That's a good idea. Either you sit around and wait till someone does, or you create it yourself. And that was what it was. It just really became this awesome formula for hope. And people need it, man. They still need it.
Absolutely. So, how is your website's like fully active? Everything's you're still like fully updated, and you're still sharing a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, man. We have a lot of contributors that write articles and send them in, and I have a team that edits them, and so if
That's
anybody
awesome.
wants to be able to get their content up, we open it. I love giving people opportunities. I love giving people a voice and a platform for transformation. I've written about 700 articles or more on the website. I stopped writing religiously, like every few days. Probably about a few years back, I stopped. The podcast took off and I did that, and now I spend time just more so coaching, and I built a new academy called Mind Strong Academy. So that's more where I get to actually go hands-on with people and coach them, over live calls, because there's only so much we can do with information. It's just cognitive understanding at some point. What I really was concerned with was, are people actually applying this to their life? Are they integrating it? Are they actually grabbing the strategy and then showing up in the habits and the routine and the execution and the focus in order to be able to get the results? So I can do that now with my Mind Strong Academy.
Absolutely. That's what I'm about. That's the one thing that I'm really on a mission for right now with my podcast, Luke Mind Power Podcast, is to make sure that everybody who comes on is really like on another level, so that everyone who listens can take on that energy and information so they can transform their lives. And that's the only reason for this episode, for this podcast, right? So it's a blessing to have you on, man, because, I've had to do a lot of work, and I've had to stay consistent and freaking post and grow, to get to this kind of level where I can actually reach out to people and go, hey man, like, I think I'm worthy. I'm worthy, bro. Come on my podcast, man. So the one thing I just want to emphasize, just for everybody who's listening, because I think this is the challenge, right? I believe we're in this new world of, we've evolved, bro. It's not 20 years ago anymore. Like, social media is huge. The internet is huge. The amount of information that there is out there is ridiculous. So I believe that it's real pure ignorance for anyone to say that they can't transform, change, learn something new, decide to change their whole life in a different direction. And a lot of people's, like for me, for example, like I went from working in the government as a driver tester for, government department, as a chauffeur driver, second job as well, to working online, virtually doing coaching and traveling around the world. And that's what I do. So like, that's kind of like where life can go for people if you're willing to put in the work. And I know that you, as well as myself, obviously, helping people grow, become better versions of themselves, build that additional confidence required to like then, have the ability to like put things together and change your whole life. But you actually are helping people establish themselves as a coach, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is, I want everybody who's listening right now to make sure that you follow Joel and reach out to him if this is what you're looking for, because like literally like Stop sitting on your ass, doing the same shit, going around in circles, expecting your life to change when, you've got resources like reaching out to Joel and saying, hey man, help me, because this is like the dream. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking to establish yourself, start learning. I always say, man, don't take advice from people who haven't been where you're going. But don't take advice from people who don't have what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody's listening right now and you want to learn how to become a coach, it actually gets results. Because here's the thing, Luke. A lot of people online will call themselves coaches, but they're not coaches. They're motivational speakers, which is fine. I am a motivational speaker too. I get asked to get up on stage and motivate people. But there's a difference between motivation and actually coaching people through their struggles, understanding feelings and emotions, knowing what questions to ask, understanding how to be able to instill strategies and shift perspectives and break old paradigms. Like there's methods and formulas to that can be learned. And then you have people that are content creators, and that's great because we need content creators. But if a content creator or someone that's only really trained themselves to be a content creator has somebody sit down in front of them and says something like, when I was 7 years old, I was raped, and now I'm scared to put myself out there. A content creator is going to shake in their boots. They're going to crap themselves because they won't know how to be able to sit in that emotionally with somebody and support them to be able to create and facilitate a breakthrough in their life. So I teach breakthrough coaching. If you've ever seen Tony Robbins that speaks on stages at events and he pulls people up on stage, or he does it live, he walks out in the audience, that's the coaching I do. It's on the spot in front of hundreds or thousands of people, and you're in the freaking trenches, man. Like that's a real coach, and it took me years to get to that point. I've worked with some of the greatest coaches in the world. I've worked alongside Tony Robbins. I've worked alongside Dr. John DeMartini. I've worked alongside Les Brown and Lisa Nichols and Jack Canfield, and, featured in films with them and gone and worked in actual retreats for 10 days, 14 days, like spent time in the trenches, learning the tools to understand human behavior, and what makes me a coach is consistently getting results and being able to do it in high pressure situations. So if someone is watching this and you're like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to create true impact and transformation, not just give somebody a bunch of new content to think about, but something that actually shifts them from the inner core, that literally transforms them on a cellular level, then yeah, come and work with me and learn how to be a coach. I do it over 4 months. It's very immersive, and you learn the tools, the frameworks, you learn the exercises that I walk people through, and you become efficient in being able to do that. I have a fast track system to teach you how to do that, so it's powerful, man, because these are skills that you take with you for the rest of your life. It's not that you just learn it over a 4-month period and now you can get clients and you can scale your business. You now can do it with your children. You can do it with your friends, your family, your followers, like whoever, to be able to create transformation. And it's so rewarding, brother. When you talk with someone and they're down in the rubble and they're just struggling in their life, and then to see them in time as you're working with them have a smile on their face, to walk confidently with their chest up, shoulders back, and their whole life has changed, and to see them become a success too is just really awesome, man.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So the thing is, for me, right, I didn't like school. I found it difficult to learn. You could have labeled me with dyslexia. All my mates went to university and shit. I went to fucking McDonald's. I went to a market research company. I went to work with my brother-in-law selling perfumes on eBay. I went to work for the government, customer service representative. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to figure it out, but I didn't know what I was doing. So it took me a long time. And then all of a sudden, 33, I decide, it's time for me to move overseas and do something completely different. Stop selling Coke, stop drinking all the time, like completely change, right? So the one thing that I've learned within this coaching space is that self-love is so important. And that's the one thing that I was missing in my life, the relationship with myself. I never had my own back. One thing that I've learned over the last 3 years of working with so many people is that, we want to heal. We want to overcome our past. And this is the things that I've been hearing since starting my coaching with clients. They say, I've been to therapy for years, but I've never got the results that I'm getting doing your program. Right? When I first heard that, I was like, oh, all right, good. Right? Yeah. So you could almost look at me and go, but you never went to university. You never studied psychology. What credit, like, what gives you credit to do this? Like, where's your accreditation? Where's your certificates? Where's your degrees? I don't have shit, bro. I got fucking life experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To overcome my own insecurities and emotional trauma. So, you know, that's my experience that I've gone through to be able to now go, hey man, I overcame shit, you know, and now I'm able to pay it forward. So what is your take and belief on like people that are actually treating other people as therapists or as psychologists who haven't, for example, how do you know that psychologist has actually overcome some sort of like trauma that now they're so informed because they've been through the pain of that experience to be able to now help someone else?
It's a great question. Look, man, in my program, Influential Coach, the 4-month certification program, I have psychologists and psychotherapists that come and be a part of it. And years ago, when I first started having psychologists and psychotherapists reach out to me to join the program, I was almost intimidated because I thought, well, wait. I've been coaching for, at that time, it was like 10 years now. I'm 14 years into coaching. I was like, well, wait, why would you want to come and work with me? And there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
So the coaching industry is kind of like the wild, wild west. It's a good thing and a bad thing because it's not governed. There's no governing board. You can have like the ICF is an accredited certification board, but that doesn't mean that they always teach the best things. Who knows? It depends on what you want. So psychologists and psychotherapists come to me because they say like, hey, well, there's so much red tape in our industry. There's so much politics. There's all this paperwork. And I think there's a time and a place for psychologists and psychotherapists, right?
For sure.
I do have people that come to me and say, Joel, I was laying on a leather couch for 3 years and I got nowhere, right? Like they're laying there every week. They're going in to see a psychologist and they keep repeating all these things, but there's no action. The thing that I do love about coaching, and it's not to say that psychotherapy and psychology doesn't take action. There are elements of that too. But with what I learned with coaching is to get people into action earlier, right? Like acknowledge what's there in the past, acknowledge the trauma, the wounds. Let's get into action. How do we shift what's happening at a core? How do we heal that? Let's move forward. And sometimes people run their business in a way where their clients are constantly having to rely on them as a crutch. I don't build my coaching business like that. I want to make myself replaceable. I want to get it to a point where somebody goes, you know what, Joel, we're 6 sessions into working and I feel like that's it. I've got everything that I need from this. That's freaking great. They're the type of results I want from my clients. So they don't have to keep coming back to me. If they have to keep coming back after 2 to 3 years, I'm not a good coach. And you ask, like, do you need accreditation? Tony Robbins doesn't have accreditation. He never did. He never got a psychology degree or psychotherapy certificate. He got results in the trenches. And that's what I've been doing too. You know, I dropped out of high school, brother. I was bullied throughout high school. I was always a guy. I learned martial arts. I stood up for the guys that were getting bullied. Then the bullies would turn on me, and it was just this constant battle throughout all of high school. I ended up getting into a huge fight. Everyone had to go to court. I ended up dropping out of high school when I was 16, so I never completed. But I have a multi-million-dollar coaching business and an empire online, and I impact around the world. And that's because I'm able to get results. And I think what happens in the schooling system, and even can happen in university, is that, like, let's say that you got to sit a test in high school, right? And you're graded based off what you can get in social studies, in chemistry, in algebra, and in English. If you're really good at English, right, and you can get an A in that, but you're a D in everything else, then they're going to tell you you're a failure. But if I could get my friend Jimmy to go and sit my chemistry test for me, I could get Lisa to go and sit my social studies test, and I'll take the English one, we're going to pass with flying colors. So the way of thinking is so different. When you leave school and you go into the world, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that is what it's like. I don't have to be good at everything. I either hire or acquire the skill set to be able to grow the business. There are things that I'm not very good at. I'm terrible at accounting. I don't really like maths. I know basics of maths, but I will hire someone to handle that for me so I can spend more time.
I hate maths, bro.
Right? But like, I've never used trigonometry since I left school. Never used it. Algebra, like that, haven't touched it, right? But what we do is we continue to have this like slave-minded education system way of thinking that we continue in our businesses. Wonder why we're not scaling our businesses. So I had to shift the way that I thought. I was already rebellious against the education system because I got really not much from it when I was in school. I was sort of like jaded towards it because my experience in school was like bullying, and it was like a battlefield every time I was at school. But to come out of it and realize that I had this entrepreneurial spirit, I understood what it meant to delegate and to go and find and source people that were great at this, so we could like come together like the Justice League or the X-Men or a SWAT team and like really dominate. And so I think a lot of people are still in the education system way of thinking, and it's okay if you want to go that route. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not going to work for you. You have to shift the way you think.
Yeah, man, absolutely powerful. I want to go into your story, but I also just want to emphasize, I'm just curious, have you had many people come off medication working with you?
Look, I always ask at the start when I work with my clients, are you taking anything? Do you smoke weed? Are you an alcoholic? We go through that process, and sometimes it shows up. Not as much as it used to. I think people are actually becoming more educated on, especially if they want to personally develop, they're more educated on what they get to change. And so people are becoming more vulnerable and sharing, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. So it's not a sort of hidden, shameful thing like it used to be when I was starting out coaching like 14 years ago. But yeah, man, like I've had many people that have come off. They've broken their loops and addictions with alcohol, smoking, cigarettes, smoking weed.
What about like antidepressants and shit like that, like anxiety pills?
Antidepressants too, and I'm not, a licensed psychologist or psychotherapist, and I wouldn't say that anybody that's even just worked with me straight out of the gate that they should even be working with people that are suicidal or depressive. It's you got to go to somebody that specializes in that. I've worked with people that have not shared with me that they're suicidal, but they eventually have come out to say there was a point where I felt like this, and I was like, wow, that's new to me. And they've backed away from the edge and they've changed their life. If somebody told me straight out the gate, even though I'm very well versed with my coaching, if someone said I am suicidal, I have people on my dial that I can call that are psychotherapists and psychologists that they can go to. I don't want to play with that. I don't want blood on my hands. Yeah. I don't want somebody to say they're suicidal and then I'm the last person they spoke to. But there has been people that have shared with me, hey, I felt depressed. And I always ask, as a well-versed coach, I don't think everyone should just ask this, but I feel confident in it because I've done it that many times. But I would ask, are you depressed or are you experiencing depression? Like how do you define it? Because sometimes people say depressed. Like I felt depressed. I've had moments where I've felt depressed, down, disorganized, out. What I do notice a pattern where somebody will say, I feel depressed. And I'll say, okay, are you suffering from depression? Like, is this like a mood where it's continued for you? Or do you just feel like on a scale of 1 to 10, are you like a 1 or a 2 today? And if so, why? And what was yesterday like? If they're like, oh, yesterday I was a 7 and like, then I catch up with them 2 days later and it's like a 10 again. It's like, well, you had a moment of feeling depressed, right? We have moments of feeling shame, feeling sad and so on. But what I do notice, brother, is a pattern that happens often. And there are so many different dynamics to it, right? Different factors that can come into account. But the thing that I do notice when somebody says, I feel depressed, but not long-term depression, is when I have a look at their habits in their life, they're very disorganized people. They don't have structure. They have a lot of chaos. They feel overwhelmed. Therefore, they feel like they're deep in a hole and they're like, they don't know how to get out. So I'll support them. I'll even draw on a piece of paper a hole like this. And I'll say, let's create a few rungs. And like those rungs are like achievements that will help you to feel that much lighter, like the pressure's coming off your shoulders. And that'll help you come out of that hole. And they're like, wow. So sometimes people need a visual. Hey, I'm in a hole. That's how it feels. But that achievement of like, maybe it's making that really hard phone call. Cool. I'll support you with that. What do you need emotionally to be able to feel confident to make that phone call? I got your back. I'm in your corner. Maybe it's a forgiveness conversation. Okay. The next thing, well, I got to get my money up. I'm feeling stressed about this money. Well, what's stress, Luke? Stress is fear of loss of control. If I feel like I've lost control of something, I start stressing. My body, my nervous system goes, oh my God, how are we going to handle this? All this uncertainty starts to flood our mind, and our nervous system goes into protection, fight or flight. Now, if I can get a game plan mapped out and they have structure, okay, I don't need to make $5,000 right now. What I need to do is I need to buy myself some time. So if I have like a bill that needs to be paid, maybe it's your rent, and it's like I need to pay $5,000 with like these 3 lots of bills, then maybe I can make a phone call to the landlord. Hey, can you give me just 1 extra month? Maybe something can be negotiated. Maybe there are like 5 people on your Rolodex that owe you money. Give them a call. Maybe there's 6 people that are in your inbox right now on social that you could reach out to start. They could be drumming up some business with you, right? So there's always a way. And I say, like, you don't need the $5,000. What you need is time. So if you can like make $500 spread out over 10 days. If you got a month, every 3 days make $500, then now you've got $5,000, right? And so it's like, wow, if I start looking at it in that way and chunk it down, this is possible. It's when we feel like something's not possible, we lose hope and it depresses us. So we feel like we're trapped. And so my goal as a coach is to always look at like, how do we restructure things so that you can start seeing that there's possibility and hope in doing something different to get a different result. Because if I feel like I've tried all of the things that I can and I'm getting the same results and it's not working for me, I feel trapped, man. I feel helpless. And so that's a very tough place to be in. So it's really about getting structure again. Structure, a game plan, knowing what to focus on, creating clarity around it, knowing that person can lean on you and get that accountability and support. Brother, that's coaching. That's not sitting there telling someone, you got to be passionate. Just don't fear. Have faith. Don't be scared. Don't be a pussy. Put your head in the game. It's like none of those things are really helpful if there's no game plan to it.
For sure. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you wanted some fucking coaching to understand what Joel is good at, he just fucking showed you right there.
You're fired up, brother.
Hey, man. So have you heard
to this conversation?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah. So have you heard of, the 4 agreements, right?
Yeah. Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah. So yeah. So you got you can create your words for black magic or to create magic, right? In the beginning, there was the word and the word was God, right? So the power in the word. Whatever you speak is what you become. Whatever you speak is what you manifest, right? Obviously actions required, but just going back to the whole depression thing, because I think that, obviously it's situational as well. It's like, and there's also trauma, which causes that if you haven't overcome it or addressed it or given love or light to it, right? But then there's also the word. And the one thing I always tell my clients, I tell everyone on my podcast as well, is if you keep saying I'm depressed, you're conditioning yourself to believe that, to be that, to think that, which then, what is thought? Thought is how you create your reality. So do you agree with that? And the power of that? And obviously that's not the easy way out to, like, if you've got, or you're going through, I always say you're going through a depressive experience. You're not depressed. You're going through a depressive experience. It's like reframe it so that you're conditioning your mind in a healthy way, right?
Yeah, look, man, some people are so stuck in a defeatist mindset because they've just been in that pattern for so long. I pay attention to patterns. So I look at like what would have led that person to that way of being, because what we think continuously, we actually, like you said, manifest. Like we start to become that because our mind is programming our body to feel a certain way. Our body follows the mind follows the body is the unconscious is the body. So it has a huge effect on how we feel and how we act and how we think. The 3 things that we can control is our perceptions, our decisions, and our actions. I repeat that. The 3 things we can control are our perceptions, how we perceive things, view things, our decisions, what are we going to do? What are we going to decide to how we're going to experience something? I'm going to decide that this is a good thing or a bad thing, and how we act. What are we going to do next? Right? That's it. We only control those 3 things. And so I think it's natural for us to have a negative thought. That comes up. We actually have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts. And if we're constantly training our mind to think more positive, okay, great. We're going to give ourselves a bit more of a fighting chance. But we naturally have negative thoughts. It's what we do with it next. After it's past that first gate and there's a filter there, Are you going to act on that? Are you going to decide that negative thought is going to rule your life? Are you going to be the slave to your mind, or are you going to be the master of it? And this is where, when I see my clients that I coach start to shift into a space where they go, oh my God, I had the power all along to master my mind, that I actually was the person riding on the horse, holding the reins this whole time. It changes everything, bro. But if I'm constantly a victim to my circumstance, if I am, like you were saying before, you know, like this, hearing the word depressed, brother, classic example, Robin Williams. He was seeing a psychotherapist or some sort of a therapist, and they were telling him, oh yeah, you're depressed, go on these medications. And I think when somebody has such a defeatist mindset, I'm not just saying Robin Williams, it's very sad what happened there, but like just in general, when someone has a very defeatist mindset, sometimes that medication gives them a bit of a knee up, right? I'm not the person to say go straight to the medication. As a matter of fact, I'm actually very much against big pharma. I think there's a time and a place where someone may need some sort of chemical push, right? It's kind of like in the morning, if you're so beat, of course, if we could get a cup of coffee, it might give you just a little bit of a lift. But I think that what's even more powerful is learning how to be able to shift yourself into action in a positive frame without needing medication. But for some people, they do. So you got someone like Robin Williams who was sitting there hearing, you're depressed. He's talking about it, I'm depressed. They put him on medication that reminds him every time he picks up the bottle, takes the tablet out and has it, he's reminding himself that he's depressed. And so like now it's not I feel depressed, it's I am depressed. We're going to be so careful with how we label ourselves. I am is so powerful. You know, God taught us that. I am the great I am. That's that's the biggest, boldest claim and statement. And, you know, we are made in the image of God. And so the word is powerful. You know, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word essentially came down to meet with us as Jesus, right? Jesus is the resonance of the word that is God incarnate that came down and walked with us and amongst us, and to teach us how to understand the character of God. And so we also, when we speak our words, there is character that can be formed from that without us even knowing from time to time. So how I speak and what I say to it, to people, can take form as character, and that's a representation of their experience with me. I know we're going sort of deep here, right? But someone is experiencing me, and they're choosing how they want to experience too. They can, because we're meaning-making machines, we can define like what that means. And so we go into this sort of dance between how we communicate with people, how people are perceiving us. So if I'm sitting there with people around me that are saying, yeah, you're depressed, and I'm telling myself I'm depressed, you better bet that I'm thinking that I am now officially depressed. So who we have around us, we're going to be really careful. My friends that I have around me, bro, wouldn't accept it. Like if I was like, I'm depressed now, they'd be like, all right, look, I'll show you love and compassion. But if you continue to tell me this for 30 days straight, I'm going to turn around and say to you, brother, you're bigger than that. You're bigger than this feeling that you have. Let's like get into action now and make a change.
Yeah, bro. It's the will, but where there's a will, there's a way. Like there's got to be that. You got to have that fight spirit within you. Obviously, the right people around you. But if a person with authority, for example, a person with a psychologist, psychotherapist, psychiatrist, whatever that is, right? They have power in a sense. People are vulnerable. People go to sit in an office or sit in a wherever it is, and someone says you are clinically depressed. This is what you are, right? And most people will just go, okay, all right. They take it. And then what happens? They become it. Well, that's what they said. So, I mean, that's why we're having this conversation, because I just want to bring a bit of light to it, because it's so easy for us to just listen to somebody else. And that's why I believe in the power of, motivation, power of inspiration, power of storytelling. When you hear fucking a client of mine, 24 years, bro, she was on antidepressants and she came off it the last 12 months, bro. She's come off it and she's fucking liberated herself.
That's powerful.
You know what I mean? Like, and when you hear a story like that, I had an event in London. I got her to come up and speak in front of everyone to share her story, Awesome. So it's like when you hear that versus not being inspired by someone who's done something extraordinary, it gives you belief that, well, maybe this is not the end of the road for me, man. You know?
Amen.
And so
Amen.
I think that's the purpose of like why we're here, to like shine brighter. You know what I mean? Because so many people out there are sleeping, are suffering, are just, you know, have fallen victim to like you said, big pharma, bro. Like that's a money making machine, man. It's sad in a sense, you know. I like what Rick Ross kind of says in regards to like his life, and he's like, you know, he doesn't have time for depression. He's got too much fucking shit going on.
Yeah.
He's got fucking music videos.
True.
He's got his entrepreneur lifestyle. He's got all this shit going on. He's like, he doesn't have time to think about depression, you know, because he's got goals to chase and dreams to achieve and shit, you know.
I feel the same too. It's like, hey, man, that thought is held captive. If it ever crosses my mind, as Christ says, he says, like, hold captive, right? It's in Paul actually says it in the New Testament, hold captive every thought, right? And the thoughts that weaken you and disempower you, hold captive, grab it, and be like, yo, you ain't running loose in my head. Like, I'm putting you away. Yeah, but it's not suppressing the thought and pretending it's not there. That's the avoidance. I just don't enable it. I allow it to pass through, but I don't grab it and make it me. That's the difference. The powerful things that make it me. Like every single part of me is on my own team. I'm not separate from the powerful things that are coming to my mind. Like I have moments of flux like everybody. I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. But I have moments of flux. And you know, sometimes you got to go back and listen to some of your own advice too, man. Like remember the times where you were powerful, because that's possible for you to do that. I remember Tony Robbins saying that he had Andre Agassi, who was like one of the top, you know, tennis players. And Andre Agassi went from like really high up the ladder to like really low down the hierarchy, you know, the ranks. And Tony was like, yo, how did you feel and where were you at when you were winning, you know, Wimbledon? And so he had to go back there and remember. And sometimes we forget, bro, because we've just been in this like defeatist mindset for too long. So we're going to go back and remember. And what I realized too was that if you don't have a big vision of what you could be and what you are in your mind, when somebody else comes along and projects a small-minded vision on you, you will buy into it. Like someone could come to me and say, oh yeah, this and that and that's what's. If I don't have a big enough vision that will conquer whatever their small-minded vision is, I will easily adopt their vision. I don't allow people, unless somebody has an even bigger and more powerful and more strategic vision than me that makes even more sense to my life. When people try and like prophesy on me over things in my life, I'm like, yo, that doesn't match, bro. That's not even in my world. That doesn't equate to what I already know about what I can do. So I'm not adopting that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Powerful shit. Bro, you mentioned a few things about your story and about, you know, you being bullied and then you learned, you know, martial arts and stuff like that. What is your pain, man? Because I believe that your pain is your power. Your pain, when you overcome that, you liberate yourself, and then you have the power to be able to plant, water other people, help other people. You know what I'm saying? Because you've done it yourself. Yeah. So what is that for you?
I mean, look, it's every superhero story, man. It was feeling not good enough, right? It was this, you know, I'm not good enough. I need to achieve more. And throughout high school, the bullying was happening. And this is interesting because I heard Jordan Peterson say something recently. He said, those that tend to get bullied are the ones that react. They're the ones that will speak back, right? Because then you become a game to that person. Granted, there were like 10 dudes. They were the popular dudes. They like smoked weed. They took drugs. They would like try and hit on all the girls and all that. They try and dominate all the school space. And I had learned capoeira, the Brazilian martial arts. I learned kickboxing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and taekwondo. So I was pretty well efficient in fighting. But when you learn how to fight, bro, you don't go around looking for fights. If anything, you're just like, yo, I'm a weapon. You don't want to activate me on this, right? Mm-hmm. But when I saw them picking on the Asian kids, the gothic kids, the overweight kids, you know, the redhead guy, like I hate injustice. And so I like stood up to them, and I became now a new target and like an entertainment for their, you know, bullying. And so I had something to prove. You know, it was like, when I kept getting pushed, I was like, I'm not going to let someone push me around. You know, I got to make sure I'm not defeated. My feeling of not wanting to be defeated because I wanted to feel good enough was a driver to fight back. And I did, and it got into a huge. This guy came and king hit me one day with knuckle dusters on. He was on PCP, steel cap boots. You know what it's like. Australia, bro, is rough, man. Like, we don't have knives and guns. We have knives, but we don't have guns. So, like, we blew. When we fight, we blew. We go in and we go for it. And, you know, that's me at 16 years old, bro. I came out of that with, like, a blood-soaked shirt, like, nose busted up, cracked teeth, like, everything. I had to go, like, emergency dental and everything for it. And the other guy was a mess too, you know, and hit a couple of his friends. But I saw like thousands of kids in the school square looking at me with just blood everywhere and busted up. And I felt like defeated, embarrassed. And I sort of had this chip on my shoulder of, I got something to prove. And this is what we call overcompensationary success. It's like you go out there to try and sort of redeem what you felt you lost in order to be able to prove that you weren't defeated. So that was the thing that was driving me. I mean, even look, the name Addicted to Success is like, this is like addiction and obsession to become great. And I don't think there's anything wrong that, like, ultimately we're all addicted to something, right? But I was, you know, sort of off path worshiping the fame and the success. And I had a very successful career, man. And within a very short amount of time, at 24 years old, I was offered 1.2 million, 1.4 million for my business. I was like, I'm not going to sell it. Like, my 10-year vision I casted was far greater. I was hanging out with like Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. I started getting asked to hang out with people like Gary Vaynerchuk and film with him in New York City and speak on stages at Grant Cardone at like 24, 25, 26, you know. So I had a lot of success. Featured in the Think and Grow Rich movie, Age of the Entrepreneur, We Rise Up with Richard Branson and Tony Robbins. And so a lot of success came in quick. And I was like, well, this must be the way to do it. But what I took as a hit on the back end, brother, was, and you might feel it too, because I know like you're a high achiever like me. You can burn yourself out, right? Like you can get exhausted. I started experiencing adrenal fatigue, right? I was just constantly on. And I had this sort of like do or die mentality. It was like all or nothing personality, 0 to 100 real quick. And I think that with that sort of personality, I could have got into drugs, bro, and could have gone hard into that. But instead, I put it into my career. And by the grace of God, I had an experience with Christ in Tulum. And that really woke me up to the fact that all this fame and success and this money and the penthouses and the luxury cars and all these things, man, like, you know, getting attention from women and all those things that I was getting, like, it felt empty on the back end of that rainbow. And I found my rest and my peace in Christ and realizing that, you know, I am enough in the eyes of God, but God knows also there's a lot of capabilities in me, and that my mission started to change. My mission became that this is something greater than just me. This is something greater than just me trying to prove myself. This is about being a part of the impact we can create while we're here on earth and becoming a vessel for God, for good, and feel good about the impact that I'm creating. And I feel good about the people that I'm teaching because I know that their lives are changing and or has already changed for more impact too. So it's this like mature success. You know, it's reaching that level where I'm investing my money and making my money work for me. I turn down big opportunities because I'm like, it doesn't completely align. Like, I don't want to be like associating with certain people. I never used to think that I had that freedom because I was so entrapped in the game. What we call the paper prison, right? You can easily break out of the paper prison, but we think we're in it and we're stuck. So yeah, man, I just stopped trying to chase the cheese in the maze, and I came out of the maze and realized it's amazing outside of it with God.
Yeah, you know, I witnessed that by watching your journey over the last few years. To be honest, I could see. I think I remember listening to one of your videos, probably on Instagram or something like that, about, you know, the lifestyle you're living, and you were living in Bali. Was it Bali?
Yeah. I was living in Bali for 7 years, and
that was like your kind of oasis, like disconnection from the world in a sense, from like detaching yourself from all this like materialistic stuff and all this shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, bro, there's a lot of materialism in Bali too. Like, you know, you could party all the time.
I know, but
call it Temptation Island.
I know, I've seen all that.
But I definitely I unplugged. You know, I was in the American culture.
But more nature, right? You're more nature.
Yeah, for sure. That's really important, bro. God gave us nature as a great resonance that we get to connect with and be a part of too with Him. It's His creation. And so the frequency,
Yeah,
if you want to talk like on a scientific level, is very different to the urban life of downtown LA or New York City or Sydney, Australia, So
for
yeah,
sure.
we get to pick and choose where we live, bro. And it's about making sure we're in alignment with our values and our vision.
Absolutely powerful, man. Just you did mention, Christ, religion, God, your beliefs, right? Um, and I just wanted to touch on that just quickly because to
Yeah.
give you an example, right? This is how my journey has evolved. I was raised, and by the way, just out of curiosity, which denomination or Christian faith are you speaking from? Or like, yeah,
Honestly, bro, like sometimes I don't even connect with Christian because of the institution of Christianity. For me, it's not about
yeah, okay,
religion; it's about
yeah,
relationship with Christ. It's what
cool.
Jesus taught initially. Like
Mm,
religion, Rome came in and hijacked. It was called, so Jesus called it the way. That's what he called it, the way. And then the disciples were called followers of the way. Rome started calling them little Christs, and that evolved into Christian, and then they turned it into Catholicism. Catholicism means universal. They had a vision to turn their religion into a universal system, which eventually turned into power and control. That's why you have all the Spanish Inquisition, and this is why the Great Reformation came into reform it away from the Catholic system. And so, yeah, man, I'm not religious. For me, I think if you would say, are you religious in habit? Yeah, I pray, I read the Bible, I say grace, but it's coming from my heart that I really truly feel the connection from God. I don't do it because I think I have to do it. I do it because I feel
mm,
inspired to do it. There's a difference, right? I'm
mm.
obedient because I love God and I feel inspired, not because it's telling me to do that, right? There's a difference.
Powerful stuff, and it's a good point of view. I was speaking to someone at my at an event that I was at in the US recently, and I also asked them the same question, like, what denomination is the church that you go to? And he said non-denominational. I said that's pretty cool because I know that the Christian faith has so many different types of Christianity, right? But the reason why I just bring it up, bro, just quickly, is because I was raised in a Catholic household.
Yeah,
And my mum especially is very, very devoted to her faith. And for me, it was more like just being like pushed down on, like I was just basically forced to go to church,
yeah,
forced to pray, like constantly, 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 constantly. So it became so much for me over the course of like growing up that I began this like resistance, almost
yeah.
like,
I
my
understand.
shield is up now and I'm like, no, I don't want to go to church anymore. I don't want to do that. Right. So when I started doing this work, I had arguments with her. Because I basically separated myself and I said, that's enough. I'm going to speak from a universal tongue and I'm not in any religion. I'm here to speak the good news of loving yourself and living your dreams and believing in yourself and being a good fucking person. That's it, bro. Do good, treat other people the way you would like to be treated, you know? So I kind of separated myself from the whole religious thing. It's funny now, like I was like so anti Islam or like Arabs when I was growing up. And like I'm in Dubai now, which is why? Because I opened my mind, I opened my heart, because I actually love walking around and seeing guys people wearing the hijab and they're wearing their cultural stuff, bro. There's nothing wrong with it. That's their culture. Leave them alone. Like, you know what I mean? So, but before I would have looked at them, gone, oh shit, there's some sort of like uncomfortable way of feeling about people dressed a certain way or whatever, you know. So the one thing for me that I had to step away from, because I saw that for me it created division, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I felt like, especially with like Muslims, for example, I felt like especially with the media and what was put on, with 9/11 and all that shit, bro, I created my own story because of all that information that they are bad, you know? So like, as well as like being, raised in a Catholic household, I created this separation between us and anyone else. And so for me, it was healing to go, I'm no longer part of this. I'm part of everyone. And I want everyone to win. You know what I mean? And I felt like if you look around, there's a lot of division because people are pushing their beliefs on each other, saying, if you don't follow this shit, you're going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. The cool thing about it is that God is relational, which means we all have our own unique relationship with Him. I think that if you want to really know the truth, you'll go and seek it. You'll actively go out to find where it is. I think that God had to enter the world to show us a standard of who He is and a standard of how we can live. And people know deep down inside their hearts, man, whether they are actively wanting to know the truth or not. God knows that too. He can weigh their heart and knows, does Luke really want to know the truth, or does he want to do it his own way? Does Joel really want to be a representation of me, or is he doing it for performance to get more likes, right? Like, we know within ourselves when we're doing it as well, for the most part. Some things are a little bit unconscious, but there's some things where we just know whether we're putting it on or not. And so I think it's beautiful that God has given us a way, a path for us to be able to go and actively seek the truth. I think it's really sad that religion has got in the way of what the truth is. And I think that we live in a world right now where we live with more questions than there are answers. So I think if God is really real, like I truly believe He is, and that He gave us a messenger and a way to, and even just a path out of this dark fallen kingdom and this matrix that we're in, that He showed us how to come out of it by proxy and to experience God in spirit to enter in us in order for us to be able to feel and know Christ in the time we're in now, then He wants us to only have the best. For who He's created us to be. You asked me before, like, what really is like that fear or that pain for me. My greatest fear, bro, is to one day stand before God when I cross that great divide, and He says, Joel, I gave you all of this, but you only did this. Like, that scares the living pants off me, to know that my potential and who God created me to be was so much more, and I played small in all of it.
No playing small, man. Absolutely not. You're not doing that.
No running from the truth,
but
bro.
yeah, man. Thanks for sharing, bro. But entirely one of the main key messages, especially for my story, and I'm sure you will agree, is just coming from unconditional love, and hence why I had to cultivate and build that energy within myself to appreciate myself, accept myself, love myself, which now gives me the power to have that unconditional love for other people. Yeah. Because I always say you can't give what you don't have. So the other thing,
there's levels to it, right, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, some people are in survival, so they're not looking for thriving or creation. They're just in survival.
Yeah, man. It's, the other thing that comes up for me doing this, I grew up with my mum always saying, the Holy Spirit works through you, right? And like when I do this work, like I'm in my flow state, something hard when I do my podcast, and I'm like, it's not me. I'm like, it's like this energy, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's why I really believe as well, like God works through you, like, you're the instrument, like play the music, bro. And that's why I'm like, if you get connected, you shine, you're in the flow, you're in the power of who it is that you're supposed to be, which is amazing. But bro, thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to finish up on one thing because, I know that this, you shared this, obviously I wouldn't be asking if I didn't see it, but you shared this, a few months back this year, the circumstances that you went through with your wife, she was pregnant. And I'm just curious and wondering if you'd be willing to just kind of share a little bit about that, and how you've moved forward from that, because I can only imagine going through something like that is not easy. My deepest condolences to you and your wife as well. And how are you guys doing?
Well, thank you for asking, man. I really appreciate that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on your platform about it, because it is one of those things that some people either they don't want to talk about, it scares them too much, it fills them with fear and grief, or they just don't know how to talk about it. And, I've been blessed to learn the coaching skills, to be surrounded by incredible people, but I'm still human, right? And yeah, man, it was tough. My wife was pregnant. We're at the 9.5 month mark. 10 months is when you deliver. That's a due date. So we're 2 weeks away from delivery, and one day she just said to me, she's like, "Babe, I think something's wrong." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I haven't felt Harper." It was we gave her a name, before she came. Her name was Harper, and she's like, "Harper's not moving." And so I was like, "Oh, really?" So we went to a hospital. They checked. They're like, "Oh, she's still got a heartbeat. Baby's just kind of chill. 2 weeks before, like, should be all right." And then the next day, she woke up really early in the morning. She's like, "Babe, something's wrong. She's not moving. I'm telling you." So we went and got the our doula to put the Doppler on her tummy. The Doppler is just an audio machine. It's not the ultrasound. You can't see it on a visual. And she's going trying to hear it. And we're sitting there in this like anticipation to hear the heartbeat. We didn't hear anything. And our doula turned the machine off and she said, "I'm so sorry." And it was just this shock, man. It's like, what do you mean? Like, we're so close to this happening. This can't be real. So yeah, we went to the hospital, got the ultrasound. Sure enough, we could see our daughter, but she just didn't have a heartbeat going, man. And everyone was just like, "I'm sorry." And we're just like, "What?" Because we were just so excited to have our firstborn child. And my mind was like reconfiguring, ready to be a father. I was all into that. I'm just so excited about being a father and looking forward to fatherhood and, thinking about the world and who am I in it? What am I going to teach my daughter? And who am I as a man? And all these things that you go through, and finding out that you're going to move into that chapter of your life. And yeah, bro, it was a really hard pill to swallow. My wife had to deliver our daughter naturally. So, knowing that she was already passed. And so we went through that experience. We held her in our arms and very surreal, bro, very sacred as well. I was holding in a lot and then I just ended up bawling my eyes out at one point and felt down, bro. We talked about depression before. I definitely felt depressed. I felt like an anticlimax had happened. Very disappointed, not in anyone, but just like disappointed that like we didn't get to experience her animated and with us. And a lot of questions for God, and a lot of people would probably run away from God. I definitely wrestled with God. But I was reminded that even the most perfect person that walked this earth, who was the most loving person, Jesus, was scorned and ridiculed and hated on and was crucified. And he was the most perfect person in this world. So what it tells us is this world is a wilderness. God never promised us that it would be easy, but he promised us that he'll be with us. And I think there's not that I think that God made it happen. I don't believe that. I believe that the world is so complicated. There are a lot of factors that are brought into account. Even to this day, we don't know why our daughter passed. We ran tests and everything, and they just don't know. What I do know is that our daughter is a perfect little angel. She never sinned. She lived a perfect life in her womb, and we're going to see her in heaven. And like, I truly believe that. We're meant to experience her in the next world. And I believe that she's got something to teach us. She already has. My wife went into a deep spiral of feeling very sad and disconnected and numb, as you would. And all it's ever done is brought me and my wife closer together. It's taken our relationship to a level that I never knew I could love a person this much. She never knew she could love somebody this much. The foundations of our relationship, our marriage, is so strong that it's like, if we got through this, like, what else? Like, what else will we face together and get through? Because not a lot of couples like are able to like bounce back the way that we did, and that's by the grace of God too. Man, we had people surrounding us. We had incredible people that just reached out, like, "Hey, what do you need? I'm sending food to your place. Like, give me your address." Like that. That's bro. I know it now because I didn't know what that experience was like. But when I see that people have lost their child to stillbirth or anything, just lost their child or lost a family, it's just like, "Hey, give me your address. I'll send you something." Like, they don't want to have to worry about groceries or cooking for like weeks. Just hook them up, right? And so I learned that in the process is just be there. You don't have to say all these like quotes and these like hyperboles, all these like little like, things to try and make people feel better. They already get that enough. Just be like, "Yo, what do you need?" Like, "I'm sending you this. That's it. I'm sending you this. Give me your address. I'm sending it over. It's going to help you out. Done. Let me know. No questions answered. You don't even need to give me credit. Just where you at." So yeah, bro, I learned a lot about grief. I'm a friend with grief and I understand it more than ever. I got back up, bro. I wrote a book. My book is coming out soon. It's called God's Forgotten.
That's what I was going to ask you earlier. I was like, have you had Addicted to Success? You had all this writing. Have you actually released a book, or is this going to be the first one?
I'm starting to work on my second book. My first book, God's Forgotten Part, The Purpose, is coming out soon. It's going through edits. Very humbling process, by the way, brother. I don't know if you've written a book before, have you?
Not yet. It's coming. It's coming.
Bro, it's so humbling. It's
I haven't even told anyone else. Yeah.
And then the editor just like comes back with all these like things that are wrong with it. It's just like, it's a long road, and you get excited at the start with the idea. But I have a lot of respect for people that actually write their books, not ghost write their books, but actually write their books, because it is a process. Mm-hmm. You grow in it a lot. And so my daughter is a catalyst for that, a muse and inspiration. And my wife ended up doing something she always wanted to do. She started painting, and now she's an incredible painter. In a very short amount of time, she's blown up with her painting. She's selling her pieces already. This is her career now because of our daughter. So, yeah, dude, I would just say anybody that's going through times like this, just lean on God. I know you're probably going to wrestle with him, but lean on him harder, because he reveals to you that the vessel he's created for you is much stronger than you think. The feelings are real, but you can endure as long as you're there with God. Yeah.
Absolutely. Amazing, man. If you're listening to this and you know, whether you believe whatever you believe in, you know, I'm sure that you were deeply inspired and touched by everything that Joel has shared with us today. So, Joel, I just want to say thank you, man, from the bottom of my heart, man. I look forward to meeting you. I'm sure that we'll collaborate in the near future with bigger projects and stuff like that. No doubt. I really look forward to that. But thank you so much for being open enough to spend this much time with me. I know that your schedule's probably crazy busy and you've got so many things going on all the time. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute blessing. Where can people find you, man? If on your social media platforms?
Yeah, you could go on Instagram. Go to
Best place.
I am Joel Brown. We talked about the word I am before. I am Joel Brown. JOELBR.
Yeah.
You could go to influentialcoach.com if you want to find out about my certification coaching program. We do everything from scratch, like if you want to build all your layers up to feel more confident to coach, to then learn the tools, frameworks, and exercises that I teach in breakthrough coaching, which you can do live at events if you want to be able to get that good at it. And then you learn how to craft your message, how to be able to create your offer, how to be able to get leads, how to be able to create content, how to be able to enroll people and scale your coaching business and build all your business systems and all that. So just go to influentialcoach.com and apply. I got the Addicted to Success podcast as well. So Addicted, the number 2, then Success. So we had like Matthew McConaughey, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Simon Sinek. A lot of really awesome people on there that share a lot of their awesome advice too. But yeah, Luke, man, thanks for having me, bro. I respect you so much, man. Like we have obviously interacted on social, but to just like get to know more about you and for you to give me that space to share with your audience, man, I really appreciate you, bro. And I'm looking forward to collabing more in the future too.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you're ready to grow and reach your full potential and find inner peace, send me a DM that says, I want inner peace, and I'll send you the next steps. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. When you change your mind, you change your whole life. So don't hesitate and send that DM over to me. Myself and my team can't wait to meet you and witness your transformation in full glory. See you next week.